It's not how hard you can get hit. It's how hard. Oh, wait, no. Wait. It's not how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and then stand back up again. I didn't hear no bell.
Net gains. Hello and welcome back to the Net Gains podcast. I am one of your hosts, Roger Parent. I am an ex-CEO, pro athlete, former pro athlete, and father of three.
I'm your other co-host, Frank Field. I currently compete on the AVP Beach Volleyball Tour while also working for one of Roger's companies.
Frank, I just got back from my entire family vomiting for a week. Mm-hmm. So we are recording this episode 2 days before it's supposed to go live. It is what it is, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. We were supposed to record Friday, and you were sick, and then you slacked me at like Saturday at 8 a.m. Like, hey, let's record. I'm like, I'm in Houston. I'm playing a tournament. We can't do that. And then you continued to puke for another 48 hours. And now here we are, and we got 2 days till podcast release. Garrett's going to be up against the clock, but mental toughness, baby. That's what this is.
Brutal. But on a good note, we are pivoting a little bit. I think it's important we touch on that we're going to try to focus these episodes and make them a lot shorter, more concise, and focused on very specific topics, which should make our lives a little bit easier in creating them, but also the
Garrett's
listeners' lives
much easier as well.
Yeah. And the listener's life a little bit easier in digesting all the information we are trying to put out there.
Really, look behind the curtain. It's that Roger monologues too long, so we had to really cut the episode length down to make sure that he's not rambling for an hour and no one knows what the topic is anymore. So we're trying to be more concise here.
Yeah. Sure. Nothing to do with your 7,500 word outlines, huh?
There's just so much information. We got to get to the masses, you know?
What are we talking about today then?
Okay, so today we are talking about setbacks. Roger, you just had a setback last week. So as we crammed in the episode topic in 48 hours, we also crammed in our what we're talking about. So it's going to be setbacks. And, you know, you had, 5 straight days of your entire family puking. You were supposed to be on vacation and decided to just get sick instead. So that's a pretty good setback. So why don't you intro us and talk about what that was like?
Yes. I actually planned the week off for vacation. And
even though your whole life is a vacation now. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I was planning a staycation with the wife for a week. Like, we're going to chill out for a week, spend some time together while the kids are in school and daycare and stuff, and just do whatever we want for a week. And Monday morning, we're getting the kids out, and we're about 15 minutes from starting this vacation when the kids are going to be out and we're going to be able to have our time together. And Connor throws up. My middle child, Connor. He ends up throwing up 9 times over the next 48 hours. And then, so he's out basically for the week. And then I get it, and I'm out from basically Wednesday, Thursday, all the way through Sunday. And then on Easter morning, my oldest throws up. Easter evening, my youngest threw up. Even my dog threw up, dude. My dog threw up at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning out of nowhere. It's completely unrelated. But
Wait, it was unrelated? That's funny. When you told me earlier, I was like, oh, I guess the dog got sick too. But
yeah, no, just completely unrelated. Just I don't know, ate some poop outside.
But, my God.
It was just there's a Family Guy episode where everybody's just throwing up all over each other. That's what it just felt like in my house for the whole week. And so, I'd say in that instance, I knew it was a setback was happening and my whole vacation was destroyed. It was very obvious. But I think what I want to ask you is, how do you recognize you're having a setback when it's not so obvious?
Yeah. So first I want to touch on like what a setback is in general. Because if you listen to like these social media gurus who are mindset gurus, it's funny, they actually never have setbacks. You ever notice that? They don't get sick. They never get hurt. The weather's never bad. They always just grind every single day. Yeah, well, guess what? That's not really how life is, right? We all have setbacks. There's obvious ones like Roger getting sick and his dog puking on the floor as well as his 3 kids. There's obvious ones like an injury. We've all had injuries before. I've had a lot if we want to go through them. But then there's less obvious ones. Like, for example, if you have a standard of working out 5 times a week, you get busy and you're only able to work out 3 times a week, you can consider that a setback on your standard too. So, there's a lot of ways to define it, but you have to, for the less obvious ones, you have to know what your standard is in order to understand if you're having a setback.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point, is that like a setback may mean different things to different people based on their goals. Like our good buddy Theo, who's making a run for the Olympics right now, is an amazing dude. I'm assuming like if he like misses a meal, he like considers it a setback, right?
Yeah, like doesn't stretch the night before bed, like setback,
yeah, just like constant, insane attention to detail to play at like the highest level of a sport in the world, right? But how do you stop that setback from becoming just like a negative mentality of like everything you're doing is just setback? Oh, I just had another setback, you know?
Yeah, so I think for today, we're trying to keep these episodes a little more concise. We'll focus on the obvious one. So we'll focus on injury / illness / you're just super overburdened at work and you can't compete or do the things you want to do at the level you want to. So we'll talk about the obvious ones. For me, it's 3 steps. 1, you have to recognize it. 2, you have to understand how to handle or mitigate the setback, aka make sure it doesn't compound into something way worse when you recognize you're in it. And then the 3rd step is once you get through, you need to bounce back quickly. All right. So we've already talked about step 1, which is recognizing. All right. So let's say you're injured or you got sick. You know what happened. Step 2 is mitigating the damage of the setback. For me, these are times of high stress. When I've been hurt or injured, I get super stressed out. I get really unhappy, like depressed. So you need to know, what is your stress relief formula?
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
haven't seen that.
quick side note, I dislocated my shoulder in 2022, and then I was like super pissed off. I was causing like problems at work because I was just like mad at life and everything, and like couldn't focus. And I remember exactly where I was. We had a phone call. It was March, and I was like on a walk because I was just so angry. And then we had to have like a heart to heart, and like, anyway, we figured it out. But if I had known about my stress relief formula at that time, I might have not lashed out at everybody around me. And so for me, it's things like going on a walk or taking a long car ride, or even something as simple as like getting Chipotle. I just love Chipotle. And that can be like when I'm overwhelmed, just go and get a good burrito, eat well, and feel better. So these are just times of high stress, and you need to have your stress relief formula mapped out.
Yeah, for me, it's taking a shower, like just a long, hot shower.
Nice.
And I'll just stand in the hot water, and that's like, it sort of like shuts the world out around me. And it's where I do, what is that? What's the thing called when you, meditating. I basically meditate in the shower. And that's what I do. But when I had the illness, I remember shaking in bed with the fever and chills and body aches, and thinking to myself this past week, it's going to be a great comeback. It's going to be a great comeback. Like, it's like, I think there's part of it is just recognizing when you're in it. Like you mentioned, your first thing of like recognizing you have a setback, recognizing when you're in it that like, this is temporary. This doesn't take away the last 3 months of amazing body of work that I have. It's just an illness. I'll be fine. It's like putting that into perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good call out too. Another thing I want to touch on too is, I don't know if you were able to do this when you were sick in bed for 48 hours, but when you also recognize you're in that setback to mitigate it, you can lower your standard. So just really at that point, any progress is good progress. So if you are hurt or sick and you're trying to work out 5 times a week, but you can only do like a 20-minute workout or a 15-minute workout, even just doing 10 to 15 minutes is going to get you some progress and not entirely like destroy all of your progress.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, I think it was like the 3rd day or whatever. I just tried to like get out of the house and walk around the cul-de-sac like 5 times. And I was like out of breath going up and down my driveway.
Right.
Like it was tough, but but it was a win. Like I felt good afterward, just a little win of like, I got back out again. So
it's just momentum, right? You're just generating a little bit of momentum, even if it's not your normal standard.
And that gets into like how you're handling it, how you're handling that setback is like, you're basically trying to generate momentum out of it. You know, I remember thinking like, I need to make sure, it was Saturday when I was having that same thought, like, I need to make sure I get in the gym on Monday or Tuesday when I'm feeling better.
Yep.
Like I got to make, like, I know that like I have to get back at it this week. And so it was like, I was mentally setting goals for myself of trying to create that momentum back out the other side of it.
And that's a good thing too, right? So when you're in the middle of it, you're still like, all right, I have my plan for as soon as I get out of this. Maybe you were studying film, so like even if you're in bed, you can still watch a little bit of film and get a little better or make a plan. So yeah, there are ways to mitigate the damage of it. But I think that's a nice segue. So you're in this right now, bouncing back from the setback. It's Tuesday. What is Roger Perrin doing to bounce back?
I think the biggest thing is getting back into the routine. Like for me, routine is important. Like I need to feel like I'm back into my routine. So like I couldn't take all my vitamins and like all this, like I normally get up in the morning, I go into the gym, I get some pickleball reps in, then I do a workout, then I start my work day. And just like getting back into my routine, even though like my pickleball training this morning was like awful, like very like leisurely, but like I just got in there, I'm drinking my electrolytes, like I'm, got in there, did a lift, and took my vitamins and supplements. Like I'm trying to get back into my routine, which is my comfort zone.
Yeah, that's such a good call out. So like what you basically did was you took action. So you're back, you're feeling healthy again. You have to immediately take action. You can't wait around because that one day can turn into 3 days, can turn into a week. And now you've compounded your setback into another week of not being on your standard, right? So you took action right away. And I think what you also did was you already identified, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously, the most pressing actions that you needed to take. So vitamins. Immediately you got your vitamins back in, you got a workout in. So when you're trying to bounce back from that setback, identify the most important thing that you can do to get yourself back on track and then take action.
Another thing too is you mentioned social media here, and I want to touch on it because I think it's important because of the amount of time everybody spends on it. The reason why I love TikTok of all the platforms is because the algorithm of TikTok adjusts much faster to recent trends, or to what you're trending and looking at right now. Like my For You page looks drastically different every week based on just what I happen to be engaged in that week. But if you go on any other platform, it's like the same stuff over and over and over for months or years. Like I'm still getting YouTube video recommendations that are like 8 years old videos.
That's funny. That's interesting. Yeah.
TikTok's always fresh, but what that allows you to do is control it, unlike the other platforms. So you can sort of control your own algorithm. So for example, I was searching adversity videos and manifestation videos and things like that, and intentionally liking them during the setback to flood my natural For You page with people saying like, get off your butt and like, get back at it. You got this, like positive stuff during that time. If I'm trying to learn a skill, I'll look up a bunch about that skill, like all that stuff. And then my For You page just naturally gets flooded with educational information about that skill for that week. And so I feel like I can sort of use the TikTok social media algorithm to flood my reality with reinforcement.
Woo! That's a good call out. Garrett, that's a breakout video right there. That's a breakout video. Because I had never, I'm going to start doing that right now. I had never thought about that. But I obviously know like you can kind of manipulate that TikTok algorithm with likes. And so I'm conscious of that too. But I think that's such an amazing call out that if you already recognized you were going to be in a setback, you flooded yourself with like get back on the horse videos basically to just fill your mind with that stuff. I think that's so cool.
Now, the other side of it is if you're just scrolling social media endlessly, it's just a constant pit of putting people into depression and people living better lives than you that look like they're better lives than you and look like they're richer than you and all of that stuff. And it's just like incredibly fake. So I think that like if you're not harnessing it in some sort of way, like taking control of what you're seeing, then you are probably falling victim to like just garbage, right?
Yeah.
Engagement garbage.
That was going to be my call out. So if you're in a setback and you're already super depressed, you know, we talked about kind of it's going to be a time of high stress. If you're also scrolling Instagram and like you see everyone around you living their best lives and like competing or, you know, getting this work in or like, you know, whatever. People only put their best sides on social media. So that can be super depressing. Then it can really like exacerbate the feelings that you're feeling if you see other people getting after it and winning when you're like, God, I can't even move right now.
Yeah, you basically either need to harness it or not use it at all.
Yeah.
Like do something else, right? Like it's actually better to just like watch a movie or play some games than it is to scroll social media.
But it's a good call out. Like we kind of know at this point what platforms are going to do that. Like TikTok is one that you can manipulate to your own benefit. Like Instagram, Facebook. I mean, that's really just going to be toxic for the most part.
Well, the problem with those is, I mean, you can manipulate them somewhat over time. The problem with those is that they rely more on your personal network versus being just for you. Like TikTok is very specific to you. It does show you some of the stuff that your friends have seen and stuff like that. But like for the most part, Instagram and Facebook are way more network based than, and the problem with Facebook, the reason why it got so bad is because people friended so many people and you had like, whatever it is, 5,000 friends at some point. And then Facebook was all those people's views and opinions and all the stuff that they liked got shown to you. And Facebook wasn't doing a good job of determining what you actually wanted to see. It was what your network was sort of seeing, and it was showing you the same stuff. And like, for example, my dad likes to like talk a lot more about political stuff on Facebook, and I can't stand talking about that stuff on Facebook. And so like, I was just getting shown lots of like his types of articles because he's my dad and he's, you know, linked to me in Facebook. But it's like on TikTok, if my dad were on TikTok, which he is now because he does a spring manufacturing thing on there.
Shout out to the Spring King.
Yeah. I don't see what he sees. It's like completely different because it's just completely tailored to me. So yeah, it's just a little bit harder to influence those platforms than TikTok.
So a couple other major keys as we wrap up here. We just touched on avoid social media. I think another major key is that humans are resilient. So you're tougher than you think you are. Even if you are in the middle of this terrible thing, you can still do something, take some momentum, take some action. And you can also practice resilience ahead of time too. You know, like we touched on this in our Push Your Limits episode. If you are already practicing doing hard things and pushing your boundaries, when you actually get into a setback where it's like, shoot, this is really hard, you've already practiced and kind of built that muscle in your brain that is going to help you push through it.
Yeah. I love that. And what other than just Chipotle, do you have a couple other things that just like relieve the stress and keep you focused? Like sometimes it's just hard when you're just stressed out to like mentally think about the future as opposed to in that moment.
But this is, so I worked with a mindset coach a few years ago, and this was probably the number one thing that I learned through that process. And it was what he called a stress relief formula. So you basically identify what leads to times of stress, when you're stressed, what leads to overwhelm, and then when you're in overwhelm, what pulls you out of it and de-stresses you. So through this formula, I kind of figured out all these actions that stress me out, overwhelm me, that I should avoid. And I figured out the actions that de-stress me and that I can do to pull myself out of overwhelm. So like in the simplest form, just avoid things that stress you out and do things that de-stress you. Another example, I love long drives and listening to a podcast. Just relaxes me, takes my mind off things. Even just touching a volleyball, like I love volleyball so much. If I just go out and hit a ball against a wall for 15 minutes, it's like, life's not so bad, putting things into perspective, just doing something to distract yourself. But in the end, that's for me. So you have to figure out your own stress relief formula.
Yeah, putting things into perspective is just a good piece of advice for life. Mm-hmm. In like every aspect of life. It's crazy that like no matter what is happening, most often the problems are bigger than they actually are. Mm-hmm. They seem bigger than they actually are.
I just want to touch a little more on avoiding the negative things too, because that's almost just as big as doing the stress relievers. So like alcohol, that can be a temporary stress reliever, but long-term might have some bad consequences. That's one where I have to be careful with. When I get into times of high stress, I can just start like, I'll just have a beer, and then like turns out 7 days later you've had a bunch of beers, right? Mm-hmm.
Empty calories too.
Yep, junk food, candy, ice cream. That's a crutch. So like figuring out the things that stress you out is really important.
Great point. What's our quote of the day, Frank?
All right. Our quote of the day, as I was doing some research, I found this quote by Nelson Mandela, the OG. "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again."
Deep. Love that. It's like a Rocky quote.
Yeah. What's the other one too? Like, I think it's a Japanese one. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8.
Yep. The Rocky one is, it's not how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit. Right?
No, you got to say it like Rocky.
No, I'm not doing that.
It's not how hard you can get hit. It's how hard. Oh, wait, no. Wait. It's not how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and then stand back up again. I didn't hear no bell.
Neck gains. All right, brother. Have a good call. Go make some money.
For you. Yeah, I'll be making money for you. Well, we hope this helped somebody out there. Share it with a friend. Hopefully this helps you. If you're going through a setback, hopefully this helps you figure out how to get through it. And again, don't judge yourself if you're going through a setback. That's part of life. So, another danger of social media, those guys don't go through setbacks. So we all do. That's life. Figure it out, get through it, and get back on the horse. Let's get it.
Yo!